and every table will have its own structure. So let us get into statements. Let us work directly with the statements so that you will be comfortable with the SQL. So, so in the last session we were talking about, we have just seen select statement. So uh, let me just show you one table. So in the last session we have worked with actor table. So in order to retrieve data from any table, we have to use the statement select star from actor. So when we use star, it will give all the data, or it will return entire data.
Hello, Bharat.
Yes.
Are you sharing your screen? I'm not able to do anything there.
I am sorry. I haven't started sharing. Thanks
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
So when I want to look or when I want to retrieve entire data, I would use star. So select star from actor will return the entire data that is residing in the actor table. So we can see all the columns from the actor table. So that's where we need to use star. So when we are looking specifically for any particular row, so we have to go for the conditions. So I will use where, let's say I would like to search for a person whose first name is John. So I can do it using the where condition. Mm, yes. Let's say I don't need any other data. I just needed or I just want to see his only last name. I'm not bothered about his first name. I'm not bothered about his uh, actor ID and so on. So it will give me only the required column. So this is how SQL statements or select statements works. So I hope we have covered select statements in the last class. Any questions in the select statements?
No, Bharat.
Okay. So yes, yes. Yeah, actually Can you hear me? Okay.
I
So
can.
each and yes, yes. So each and every database will have its own syntaxes, or it will have some extended functionality. But whatever I am discussing now is generic SQL stuff. So this will work even on any database. So I'm not teaching you the syntax in specific to MySQL. So so yes, it has database. So whenever you log into the terminal, instead of typing any Linux command, just type MySQL. So when you type MySQL, the prompt will change to MySQL prompt, and from there you can start practicing the commands. Okay, but right now I just wanted to show you, but okay. So we have seen SQL statements. So let us try to understand update statements. So when do we use update statement? For example, you have booked a flight ticket, and once you have booked a flight ticket, but you want to reschedule the tickets. Maybe you want to postpone your tickets. So in such cases, when we have to modify some data within a database, we use update statements. So let us try to update this particular actor table. Before that, let me just retrieve all the data. And when do we use this select statement? When we want to retrieve some data from the database. For example, maybe you have designed a site, you have developed a website which will list or which will maintain the records of actors. So if someone wants So when you click on that particular button, the internally a query will run, and this query will fetch all the records and it will display the records on the web page. So this is where we use this particular select statement, or else let's say so when you select all the criteria for booking, like from place to destination and the dates, and when you click on search or enter, then it will display the list of flights that are available. So when you use some criteria like from to and flying dates, then internally it will run a select query, and it will apply some where conditions as well, because it is giving you some criteria to choose. So it will have internally, it will have that where conditions as well. So whenever from now going forward, so whenever you work with some website, or whenever you try to retrieve records from the website or records from the backend, so just think what is happening internally, what might be happening internally, so that you will understand the system better. So don't look at the statements as just statements, but instead plan for some. I mean, instead think that, or instead go by this one. Go by what is needed, and then write a statement or query further. And but don't do it in the other way around. So I'm writing this query, so this will be the output. No, because you needed some specific output, you are writing this query. So in the case of flight booking, so when you retrieve or when you want to book flights, we have to give some criteria and search for the available flights. So in order to search for the flight, we have to write a select query with some conditions. So first think of a problem, then write a query for it, so that you will learn it in the real time. Okay, so this is about the select statement, and we were yet to talk about the update statement. So update, the syntax would be update, then followed by the table name, and since we are updating something, so we use the keyword set first underscore name is equal to, let's say, John. So whenever you are writing strings, just try to maintain, or just try to give it in single quotes or double quotes, because when you want to give some string data or text data, so if you put it in single quotes, it will understand that you are writing some text. Otherwise, this will also be treated as the column name. So let's check. So in the error code, which is 1054, it says unknown column John in the field list. So it considered John as also a column name. So just try to put it in the single quotes and see what will happen. See, I did not use any where condition. So see what will happen. So there is an error which says you are using safe update mode and you try to update table without a condition. So when I use update without any condition, it will update the entire table. So update actor set first name equal to John. It will set the first name as John in all the records within the actor table. So which is very unsafe. So always use update with caution. Here in this case it has thrown an error, but it may not throw error in all the cases. So always use update with caution. Where I want to set the first name of the person whose last name is Chase. I want to set his first name as John. So there are two rows. You can see the number of rows which were affected. So two rows affected means there are two rows where the last name was John. So let us just display whether this affect us taking this one. See, there are two rows which were affected, Chase and the John. So this is how we use the update statements. So update followed by the table name, and we have to use the keyword set. Why are we using the keyword set? Because we want to set some existing value to a new value. So we use set followed by the conditions and finally where statement. Always remember, use update with caution, otherwise you may lose your data. So that's about update. And one more, another important query, which is delete. So what does delete do? Delete will delete the data from the table. So when you want to delete the entire data from a table, we can use delete from table name. But in our case, it will not work because there are many constraints on data which will not allow the data to be deleted. So let me just delete the data from another table that I have created. So the data is not available within this table. So in order to learn about the deletion, just let me start with DDL commands, DDL statements as well. So what are DDL statements we have? we have create statement, which is to create a table, and alter statement, which is to alter the structure of a table, and drop will delete the table. So it will drop the entire table along with the data available in the table. And there is another command truncate. We will see what it will do. So let us start with create. So within a database, whenever we want to create it or we want to add a new table to the database, we would use a statement called create statement. So the syntax of the create is create table followed by the table name. So let's say let us try to create. So whenever I would like to create a table, the syntax that I follow is create table followed by table name. I will show you the syntax as well. Followed by the table name. Then each and every table will have some columns. So we have to give the details about the columns. So how do we give the details? So let's say for trainee, for each and every trainee, I'm giving a roll number. So roll number. Then what could be the roll number? Roll number is always a number. So I would say number of. What does this 2 mean? It can store this particular roll number column can hold 2 digits of data. So I instead of 2, let me just say 3. And all the trainees will have their name. So I use t underscore name to represent their name. So name will be characters or it will be a text. So let's say each and every name will be of 10 characters. And which course is that particular trainee undergoing. So course followed by, let's say I use varchar. So what is this varchar? Varchar is nothing but it can hold text as well as numbers. So varchar can hold data which is combination of text as well as numbers. So when you say let's say suppose you want to store flight number. So flight number will always be a combination of alphabets and numerics. So we go for varchar in such cases. And when you work on Oracle database, you will have something called varchar 2, but that works on the Oracle database. It is not available here. So I am not going for that specific kind of data types. So varchar is a generic data type, so I am using it. And I apply some constraint on the first column. So let me just explain you this particular create table statement syntax again. So all the create tables, whenever you want to create a table, we just write create followed by the keyword table. Then this temporary is nothing but it's only, I mean, what does this temporary do? It will create a table, but the table will be deleted as soon as this session expires. So I don't want to have a table which is available permanently on my system. So in order to free the memory, I use the keyword table temporary. So whenever I finish up the sessions, which means whenever I log out from the MySQL, then this particular temporary will not be, or this particular trainees table will not be available on my database again. So that's why I go for temporary because I can save some memory. And the next one is roll number, or these are all different columns. So when it comes to constraint, it says primary key. So in each and every table, okay, let me just show you. So if you look at this particular table, if you observe employee ID, so whenever you join a company, let's say whenever you join a company, you will be assigned an employee ID. But your employee ID will not match with any other employee. So in order to identify you uniquely, we are giving you some unique IDs. And as soon as you join the company, you will be given an employee ID. So as soon as your data is entered into the database, you will not you will be given an employee ID. So primary key is nothing but it's a column within a database, or it's an attribute of a table which will always be unique, and it will not allow blank data to commence it. So I cannot add some row without giving an employee ID. So in order to add rows into the employee table, first step is I have to give an employee ID. So that's how primary key works. And we have another thing called foreign key. So in order to show you foreign key, let me just open this particular previous database. Let me just open one table. So just take a look at city. City table, we have a column with the name country ID. But country IDs are all numbers. But then how do we know what this country ID means? So for that, we have to go and check in country table. So within country table, we have country IDs. And these country IDs are used in the city table. So there is a logical link between city and the country, or city table and the country table. There is a common column called country ID. So we are establishing a link between the city and the country using the country ID. And whatever the value that I use within the city table, I am deriving, or I am fetching this value from the country table. So there is a logical relation between city and country. What is the logical relation? Within the city, I am using country ID, or in other words, I can say the country ID that I am using within the city table is referring to country table. So this country ID column within the city table is called foreign key. So a foreign key in any table will refer to some another table. Is it clear? Is the foreign key concept clear? Or do you want me to? Yes. Okay. Let me just tell you once again. So just take a look at the city table. Within the city table, I have the values country ID. But just looking at the city table, we will not be able to understand what does this country ID mean. So for that, let me just show you the data within country table. So country table is used to store the details of all the countries. So within the country table, I have a column called country ID. So for each and every ID, there is another country. So if I search for the country ID 87, country ID 87 means Spain. And just remember country ID 87 is for Spain. So this first city is residing in the Spain country. But how do I know it? Because this 87 tells me that there is a row within the table country with the country ID 87, and that 87 means Spain, as we have seen already. So there is a logical relation between the city table and the country table. What is the relation? Within the city table, I am taking or I am reusing the country ID which is already available within the country table. So in order to establish links between different tables, for example, in the real time, in the real world, suppose you are the owner of an house. Let's say you have 10 such houses. So you will be linked with all the 10 houses. So whenever I look at your assets, you have the link with the house number 1, house number 2, house number 3, and so on. So there is a logical relation between you and the number of or different houses. So in a street, let's say you own 10 houses, but there are 20 houses in the street. So you don't have any relation between the other 10 houses. You are owning only the 10 houses. So you have some relation with that 10 houses. So in order to maintain or in order to have these relationships within the system or within the databases, we use the concept called foreign key. So within the city table, this country ID cannot exist independently, or this country ID has no meaning until and unless you refer to the country table. So within this city, the column country ID is referring to another table called country. So within the table city, there is a column with the name country ID, and this is referring to another table with the name country. Without the table country, this country ID has no meaning. So there is a relation between city and the country. Or in the real time, in the real world, I can say a country or a city is in particular country. Which country? That country is represented by the country ID, and the country name can only be known only if you refer the country table. So that's the relationship between city and country. So I can say within the city table, the column country ID is referring to another table. So I will say it is a foreign key which is referring to country table. Is it clear now? Or do you want me to explain again? I don't know. Okay. If it's not clear, just tell me. I don't have any objection to tell you once again. Okay. So these are two different constraints, and in fact, two important constraints within the databases.
I have a
So
question,
what are
Raghu.
yeah, go ahead.
Um, I understand the concept of the primary key and the foreign key, but
Okay.
in the table, usually in SQL, we create the tables depending on the name of the table should suggest that by for a user if I say city, it should only specify the city ID, city, and whatever the time and things like that. Why do you? Of course, there is a logic behind giving a country ID.
Okay.
That if you want to know which city, uh, in
Or in
which
which country?
country does that particular city fall into, to
Yes.
know that this country ID is always referring to the country table,
Table. Yes.
wherein we have country ID as primary key for the table, and we have the country names and whatever the attributes.
Yes.
But my question is, why do we create, the relation just to see that if it is just one attribute, why can't we include the same country in the same table? Just to
Yes.
make it precise, we maintain a lot of tables.
Not not really. Let's say this is the city ID, and we are referring to country table. Within the country table, we just have two or three columns. So in this case, it's okay. But
Mhm.
let's say you want to have, or let's say you are within the actor table, you want to add another column with the name country ID. Let's say you are trying to create a database, or you are trying to create a table for the actors who are from all the countries. So in that case, if you want to know the country of any particular actor, so we have to refer to country table again. But if you include the details of country within the city, you cannot do it. And remember, country is an independent one. I mean, like imagine or just map it with the real world. So in the real world, we have something called city, we have something called country, we have something called state. So real world entities are again represented in the databases. So they exist independently with some relationships.
You
So
mean to say
whatever we
that in case further on, if we have
yeah
to add some more attributes that cannot be added in this table, rather than maintaining it in a different table, we can add as many as attributes as possible, but refer only to one ID column and use it in different tables. Hello.
So we may have number of attributes to a country, like country ID, country name, number of states in that country, number of cities in that country, the population of that country, and so on. So country is an independent one, independent entity. Let's not just go for country. In fact, anything. Let's say if you are a student. Yeah. Let me just come to this example. It will give you more understanding, I guess. So let's say I have a table with the name person. So I have a table with the name person. So what would be the attributes of a person? So he may have some uh, unique ID. Like in each and every country, they will have their own system of identifying each and every person. Let's say social security number, or let's say electoral registration number, anything. So let me just, for the sake of simplicity, person ID, then name, or in fact, I can divide it into first name, last name, or if you want middle name, then date of birth, city that he resides in, or let's have nationality. So this is for a person. Let's say I would like to maintain the details of all the teachers within my city. So I would go for another table with the name teacher, and remember each and every teacher is a person. So I would have to refer to person ID again. And let's say I want to create maintain the details of all the students in that particular country. And each and every student is a person. So I have to refer to the person table again. Maybe, but in the student table, I may have some additional details like the roll number. So I may have person ID here again, followed by roll number of that particular student, then name. Can you hear me now? Okay. So a student can have post university marks other than the all the characters that he has as a person. So each and every person will have some characteristics, but when you talk about his profession, when you talk about something else, then he will have some additional features other than the common features that I have. So for all the employees or for each and every person residing in a country, these are common features. He will have his first name, last name, middle name, date of birth, nationality, irrespective of what he is, irrespective of which profession he belongs to. But when it comes to profession, then they will have their own uh, features related to that profession. So I am just using the person ID here in order to get his common details. But when it comes to specific details related to his employment status or to his profession, then I would go for the student's table or teacher's table. In fact, it's not a filter actually. It's a relation. I can say it's a relation. So each and every student is a person. Let's say I have another table with the name employees, or instead of employees, let me just be some specific engineers, or let's say pharmacists. So when I say pharmacist, each and every pharmacist will have a registration number. Year of registration and so on. So these are characteristics which are specific to a pharmacist, but the pharmacist is essentially or necessarily a person. Or let me just show you in Excel so that it would be clear for you. Let's again go for city, name, and the country of a particular city. Country ID, name. So within the city table, I am referring to country table by using a logical relationship between these two columns. So in fact, instead, as you said, I can go for country name instead of country ID. So let me just go by country name. I don't want to create a link now. I mean, this particular table is existing independently. So let's say city one, some, let's say city XYZ, and lying in the country CN1. Let's say there is another city ABC, it is in the country 2. Another city CEF, it is in the country CN1. There is another city CN2. So if you observe the city table now, I have repetitions here. So this XYZ and DEF belong to country name CN1. Let's say I am while typing the data, instead of CN1 I have typed it as CN1I by mistake. I made some typo, or there is a typo when I am entering the data. But in the originally both the cities are in the same country. But if you look at these typos, then they are from the different country. So there is no validation. So there is no particular person or there is no facility to validate whether whatever I have typed is proper or not. And you have the repetitions. If you observe CN and CN2, we are just creating or we are just writing names again and again. But if we have a separate table with the name country and where I have country ID, it says C1 refers to the with the name CN1. CN2, C2 refers to the country name CN2. So within this particular table, let me just hide this column to make it simple. So I will say C1, C2, C1, C2. Let's say while typing C2 in the fourth column, instead of C2 I have given it as C3. Then this will not accept. Why it will not accept? It's limited. Or let me give you clear. So if you observe the drop down here, the drop down has only two values, C1 and C2. Because we are referring to country table. So if the country is not existing in the country table, you will not be able to add it here. So you are restricted to add the country names C1 and C2. So when you use the concept of foreign key, you will not be able to use a country which is not existing in the country table. So you have some control over the database, or you have some control over the data which is entered into the database, or which is entered into the table. So in order to have such controls, we go for foreign key. So you have a relation and also a control. So instead of, even though you type some typo, it will not accept because the data is restricted. So you can see an error. The value you entered is not invalid. So yes, we should have a logical relationship. It is just like what I can say, real world simulation. Database is nothing but the simulation of the real world. So as you have relation between you and your you and the entities existing within your own world, so similar kind of details are similar relationship exists with the database. So is it clear? We are restricting the user to enter only the values which are available in the country table. So that's how you are restricting a particular user. Any questions? Or is it clear now why we go for foreign key?
Yes, Guru.
If you are still not convinced, I am okay to prolong the discussion. I don't mind because I want you to understand it clearly.
No, I'm okay with it.
Now, what about the others? Rani, what about you? Clear, right? Any doubts? Okay. So this is how what is the concept? Constraints work. So I am trying to create a temporary table with the name trainees. So let's see whether the table, this particular syntax works fine. yes, there is some syntax. This number is providing. So this should work. I think the placement of temporary is not proper. So this statement was fine. So a table should be created within the database. So let me just see if the table is created or not. So for that, I use show tables. This will show all the tables that are available in a database. So sailors 13 results, but we are unable to see the results. Let me just filter within the results. I'm unable to see it because it is a temporary table. So anyways, so let me just describe the structure of the table and see if the table is created. Yes, the table is available. So the table has three columns with the name, roll number, trainee name, course, and this particular roll number is the primary key here. We can see PRI. So let us insert some data into the table. So how do I insert the data? I use the statement insert, follow insert into, because I am inserting some data into the database or into the table. So I use insert into table name. Then I have to give the column names where I am giving the data. Roll number, t underscore name, and course. Followed by the keyword values. So for the first person, let me give him the roll number 1. Then name. Let us use our own names. Again, since this is a text, I am going for single quotes and quotes. Let's say I have joined in QA2. Let's say that is my batch, because since I have used varchar, let me see if the varchar can accept numeric data or not. So it says one row affected, so which means that the data is inserted into the table. So let me just write a select statement. So let's start from trainees. There is a one row within the trainees table. So let me just insert another data with someone else's name. Say winner QA1. So let me check what will happen in this particular case. It will throw an error because you see duplicate entry 1 for key primary, because I have given a duplicate value. One is already available in the database and I said primary key should always be unique. So since I used one again, one for the second time, it is throwing an error. Instead, let me try with 2 and see what will happen. So it says one row affected. Let me just execute the second statement. So there are 2 rows now. In fact, I can go for another syntax which says till here it is okay. Insert into trainees. Okay. I can directly write values 3. Another name. Before that, let me check what will happen. So it says one row affected. Let me check what is there. So I have 3 rows. What is the difference in between these 2 rows? 2 types of syntaxes. So I can go for the syntax when I am giving the data for all the columns. When I want to insert the data into all the columns, then I go for this particular syntax. But when I'm not interested, let's say there is a trainee who has registered with us today, but the trainee has been given the course details. So in such case, let me just create this one. So I don't want to insert the course details now. I don't have the course details now. So I will just omit the course details for. So let's see if this statement works fine or not. So one row affected, which means the statement has worked. So let me just check if that statement is inserted into the table. So it is inserted. But under course, there is a number. So when you want to give, or when you are not giving the entire data, then we can go for this particular syntax. Let's try the same syntax with without giving the roll number. Let us check whether Wildcat can access this character. Only new one. It says one row affected. Let us see what happened to that roll number. I think it has auto implemented. It says one row implemented, but I don't see any row within the database, which means the data is not inserted. Yes. It says duplicate key entry 0 for primary. Is it? So why did So yeah, there is another concept called default values. So each and every data type will have its own default value. So since we have used an integer type of data for roll number, though I haven't supplied the data or though I haven't given any data, it considered 0 as the data. That's why for the first time this has worked, because 0 is also a data. 0 is not a null value. So I said blank data or null data cannot be used in primary keys. But 0 is not a blank or 0 is not a null. So it has accepted 0 for the first time, and when I executed the same statement for the second time, it hasn't accepted it because already there is a row with the name with the value 0. So this is how we insert the data into the database. So let me just try to delete the data. So I don't want anyone with the registration number 0. So I delete from. So the syntax is delete followed by from. What is that? Table name. Trainees where roll number is equal to 0. So it says one row affected. Let's see if it is really affected. So I have only 4 rows now. So if I use this delete statement without a where condition, then it will delete the entire data from the table. So always use delete with the caution. Always try to use delete with a where condition. Delete and update. Since I am using a safe mode, I have activated a safe mode, so it is not allowing me to delete it. I mean, in order to prevent accidental data loss, I have used safe mode. So that's the reason why it is not deleting the entire data from the table. So this is how we have to delete data from the table. So we have seen creation, insertion, deletion. So let me just alter my database structure. So when do we go for alter? Let's say I have created a table and I'm not happy with the roll number as numeric one. But so I want to change it to some varchar. I'm not happy with the roll number. Or let's say when I created the table, I have created it with the trainees roll number count, or roll number can accept 3 digits, or roll number can hold values up to 3 digits. So what is the maximum 3-digit value I have? 999. So triple nine, which is the database can hold only the records of 1000 trainees if I start from 0. But let's say since some years after the company has started, the trainees count has reached or it has crossed 1000. So when the trainee count has crossed 1000, so this data or this table cannot hold that value. So I want to increase the count. So in such case we have to modify it. So I will go for something called alter statement. Alter table trainees change roll number to, let's see if this works or not. This isn't working. me just check if I can add another column. So I'm trying to add a column for date of joining. This should work. Yes. So the date of joining is added. So there is another column with the name DOJ. So this is how I can add another column if I want to add. But even I can change the data type of a column. I can change the column name. I can do whatever I want. We have syntaxes for that. So let me just. So what else? Alter, TCL commands, and aggregate commands. So we have many things to discuss. So in the next class, we'll continue the discussion in the next class. So in the next class, we will see something called aggregate functions. We will see some more uses of alter, and also we will go for joins. Joins is the very important concept when it comes to SQL. All these are basics, and by using this, by using the combination of these queries, we go for joins. So we will see all of them in the next class. In the meantime, I'll share these queries with you. When you get some time, try to practice the queries. Any more questions?
No, but
Yeah, there is a question. Can we practice in webinar? Yeah, you can practice. Just type MySQL in the Linux command prompt, and that will change the prompt to MySQL. You can see clearly the MySQL prompt there. But if that MySQL is not working, I will give you the details of another site. So I'll share it in you. I'll share it over the mail if MySQL or if Webminal is not working. Did I share the material with you? SQL in last class material.
yes.
Okay, so that should be fine. And yeah, that's it for today. Any questions?
No, but
Yes, I did not get you. No, no need of any commands. Just after logging into Webminal site, after that we log into terminal, right? So the term after logging into terminal, just type MySQL. That's it. Just try show tables, show space tables. If there are no tables, then you can create the tables using the syntax that we have discussed. Uh, in case if you have any doubt in creation of tables, I'll just send out an email with the clear procedure to be followed while practicing. That should solve your problem. So try as much as you can when it comes to SQL, because SQL is very, very important. So that's it for today. We'll meet in the next class. Bye. Thank you.